first ever edition of Kirk and Kilner. Our craft has been for as many years as we can remember now, selling real estate. And this is the show where we give you the analysis you can't get anywhere else and the insights on how to win big the next time you buy or sell a home in the DC metro market, which is where we do our business. From Loudoun to Logan Circle, Fairfax to Frederick, Adams Morgan to Annapolis, and Bethesda to Fort Belvoir, we absolutely obsess over the numbers so that our clients and you don't have to anymore. We mine the data that you just can't get from an algorithm online. Today, I'm here with John Kirk, as will always be the case, hopefully, and we're talking about Woodmoor. Woodmoor, Silver Spring. John, obviously a neighborhood you have a lot of familiarity with. I helped you buy a house there, 13 years ago or so.
Yeah.
So it's appropriate to start. We're starting at home. We're starting at, home base. And then we're going to work our way all the way around the DC metro market, and we're just going to keep going. So, John, what do you have for us on Woodmoor? You've mined some of this data.
Let me share my screen with you real quick. Let's see how I can look at me toggle there. It's good stuff, huh?
I'm so impressed. This is amazing.
All right, man. Super stable neighborhood. Let's talk about market outliers first. Okay.
Okay. So when you're talking, let's first of all, let's define some terms here. When you talk outliers and you're doing an analysis for somebody on the outliers of the market that maybe do not constitute the average, what are you talking about here, and what are you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, basically we want to go, and really going back 10 years. I mean, you've got a 950 top sale, right, and a 230 low sale in there in the last 10 years.
Okay.
Clearly, everything else is in between those. But is it
$230,000 single family home?
Yeah,
it's just unbelievable.
But that's not the trend, at all in any way. And then that was a long time ago, and it was a distressed property. But like this is an outlier, right? So you don't have those. And in the same way, the trend is way up, as you'll see as we dive through here. But the market outlier on the high side is $950,000. Right?
That's tremendous.
That sale happened in the last year or so. So pretty amazing upward trend there for sure.
Yeah. Is 950 the highest sold in there at
10
all?
years. Okay. I don't know past 10 years, but my gut would be, it's right up there.
Absolutely. Great. Okay. Talk about the volatility index here, our K&K, Kirk and Kilner market volatility index. What do you mean by a 10? What does a 10 constitute for you? And what does a 1 look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we're going through, and Pat, as you and I were, going through the sort of thought process behind this show, we wanted to kind of coin some things. So we've got this sort of volatility index, related to the highs and lows of the market. Is it going to be something that's super stable? So a 10 would be like a super stable neighborhood, and a 1, man, values are sort of all over the place, and days on market are high, and lots of things like that. This is a 10 in terms of, man, if you've got a house that is ready to go, you're going to put it on the market, and you're going to sell it, and the trend is upward. Okay.
So if you're buying in this neighborhood, very stable investment. Yep. We've only seen an upward ticking trend and a very stable market, not losing value, home prices, infrastructure around it. Very good.
That's right. And that's what brings us to the next point too. So your price point sort of crystal ball. Okay. What do we see happening in there? Well, past history really leads us to what are we going to see, going forward. And so look at this, like in the last 10 years, you have 20 sales over $700,000. And that neighborhood, by the way, just so you're aware, is about 1,100 homes. Okay. So only 20 sales over $700,000 in the last 10 years. But this is the point that you needed to pick up on. 16 of those over $700,000 sales happened in the last 3 years since 2017. So the trend is way up significantly. And as we see sort of, we'll talk about, the what you get for an average type of house a little bit further down here, but the trend is significantly up and over 700,000. And what you're seeing is this is a neighborhood that's so stable. People want to be, it's so close in, right? It's right at University Boulevard and 29, right at the Beltway there. A lot of amenities close by, tons of places to go and shop. And
very established stuff too.
Very established stuff. But what you're seeing, and when I was buying in there, 12, 13 years ago, there hadn't been a ton of additions that have been done, right? And so now, though, what you've seen is people have bought their home, 15, 20 years ago, and they got a post-war home, right? And now they're building off the back and, adding a second story potentially, up, and a master suite, and all that it's entailed there, bumping out the kitchen, right?
So instead of saying, okay, we're going to move to a bigger house further out, they're adding space, or we're moving out of here to go to Bethesda, Potomac, something like that. They're investing locally. And gosh, I mean, that's anytime we see that in general, that's a great sign that it's a stable market because of the reinvestment of the asset owners in that neighborhood.
That's right.
So that's really, really cool. And that has to be a big part of what's pushing up this average sales price as well.
Yeah. And as we see, like the next bullet point down, kind of the market of today, there's competition, right? And, the inventory is pretty low. About, 7 fewer homes have sold this year than last year. So, so far, year over year. So, if you've got less inventory typically means that, if you're a seller and you're going to go on the market, then you're going to have more of the market captive, right? And this is a better place for you to be. So, the market of today is something that's really strong, and you see that when you go in there. You've got competition on a lot of property there, and so if you're a buyer, you've got to be ready, right? And this is not a neighborhood where you drop in on a Sunday open house and you say, hey, I think I want to buy this property. Then you haven't done any preparation at all as a buyer. You're not going to win. Right. These things are going to go. These things go quick.
A lot of competition. So, and this is actually a trend we've seen in a lot of areas, especially close to the Beltway, where, over the last year over year, especially because of COVID here, people took stuff off the market, have been biding their time, and now we're starting to see that start to come back out, and so it's creating. There's a lot of pent-up demand. People who would have been buying over the last 60 days haven't had the opportunities that they now are starting to see. And so that pent-up inventory is starting to come back out. It'll be really interesting to see where we're at in Woodmoor 3 months from now, 6 months from now. Does all that inventory sort of get put onto the market that would have been back on the market over the last 60 days or so?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was looking at this morning. There's only one, I think, that's coming soon this week. Wow. Right? Typically, you're going to see 4, 5, 6 coming soon, right? And this, I mean, we're in the middle of May as we're filming here, So it is a seller's market. The inventory is still low, and like I said, if you're a buyer, you got to have your stuff lined up. You got to talk to your lender. You got to really understand where you are with your agent. You got to know the market really well. Have your agent educate you in a really great way about what's going to happen here. But if you're
willing to compete as well,
be willing to compete. And as we say to people, Pat, as well, that, here's sort of one of the main things. When you're competing, you have to decide where you would be really happy having someone else own that property. Right. So, if you're making a purchase, this is how you need to think about it. So, if you want to escalate 2, 3, 4, 5% on a property, which is significant at this price point, which is what happens, you got to be really happy if somebody else escalates 7%, you're going to be happy that they're going to own the property. Right. And so just mentally be prepared when you go into an environment like this.
Well, and a big factor there is how long you're going to own the property. I mean, if this is the forever house, you're going to be there for, you see holding this asset for the next 40 years. Yeah. That extra point that you're going to negotiate over your competition, not a big deal over the course of that lifetime. Yeah. If you're looking at this as a 8-year idea, it may not be where you want to be. But what Woodmoor has shown us is that there's plenty of people in there for the long term. We see a lot of trades that never even hit the market, goes family to family generationally as well. And
definitely. Yeah, so, super well established neighborhood that way, and there's a lot of generational families there, and that's part of the great charm of the neighborhood. I mean, there's so much about the neighborhood that's great. That's certainly one of them as well. So you
talk
see
to me about the market, sort of the market of today.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, you've got kind of competition, and that's sort of
So this is actually these are, I guess maybe I should rephrase. Those are the people that are actively trying to sell the house today on the market. Is that fair? And then, so if I'm a buyer moving to your next one, this idea that there might be about 5 houses per month on the market, each and every month. That's not a bad number at all.
No. So what you see, and look, the spring is typically when so much of the inventory just blooms, right? I mean, that's typically what you see. The fall is another time when you see a lot of properties come on the market in this neighborhood as well. But basically, you're going to see about 5 homes a month, about 60 homes per year on average sell. So you go back 10 years, it's pretty stable. Again, there's that word. About 55 to 70 homes a year sell.
That's a tremendous pace.
It's a lot of houses.
You said 1,100 homes?
There's 1,100 homes in the subdivision, or roughly around 1,100 homes in the subdivision. Right. So, you got about 5% a year that turn over. Yeah. Right. If I did that math, if my grade school math teacher would be happy that I nailed that.
Pretty probably.
Fast. Yeah. But yeah, so that's the truth, and sometimes people say, well, geez, I want to move into Woodmoor, but they feel like there isn't going to be anything that's ever going to come up or whatever. It has this thing about it because it is so sought after. But no, the reality is, you're going to be able to take shots in there. If you're buying a property, you're going to be able to do it.
Well, and a lot of that is folks who've been in there for many, many years, raised their families there, and who are moving into retirement communities. Yep. And young families coming in as well. And that's where a lot of that turnover is happening. Okay. So, foot traffic required to sell. Talk to me about that. What does that look like in order to sell 10 showings per offer? What are those showings from an open house? What are those showings from?
Yeah, so those showings, and really what you're looking at there, and if you're a seller, right, let's put the seller's hat on for a second. So you're a seller, you get 10 people through your front door, scheduling an appointment to come through the front door, and to have them allow them to see the home with their agent. 10 of those, you're basically going to get an offer. And so this is not counting open house, right? So you have an open house, and clearly during COVID-19, we're not doing open houses, but the scenario with an open house is not the same, right? So we're not including that. But
different what you want to type of buyer, just sort of different, not all the time, but oftentimes more of a passerby, a tire kicker, if you will. People can come through the property without having any real intention of purchasing. On a nice Sunday afternoon. Again, we're not doing that in this environment right now, but so these are 10 bona fide, going out with these are serious folks. They've scheduled time with their agent to come through the property. 10 of those, you're getting an offer in general. That's the market trend.
That's what you see. Yeah. And look, during COVID-19, that can actually be even a little less. I'm probably averaging overall throughout the course of my business right now, and I've got a lot under contract and putting more on the market, every week. But the reality is that what I'm seeing now is sometimes it's just 7 showings per offer, right? And so that's an amazing thing. But if you think about why is that happening, well, because people are cooped up in their homes and told to stay home. Right. So you don't have those tire kickers, as you were saying. You don't have people that are casually going out looking for homes because of the pandemic. And so everyone who goes out, Pat, and goes in to schedule an appointment to go in and see a new home, that person is very likely to write an offer. We just competed on a property this past weekend. There were 14 showings on the house, and we were on the purchase side. 14 showings on the house, 7 offers. I mean, that's 7 out of the 14 people wrote.
2 showings per offer.
Yeah, this is crazy. So people say like now is the time to go on and sell. If you're ready to go on, like this is it, man. And I think so much of the market is missing this, right? Because there's a lot of fear and anxiety about what's going to happen. Is the sky going to fall market wise? Financially, are the mortgage rates going to go up? There's a lot of uncertainty potentially, right? But man, I'm telling you, day to day, you're in this business. You're putting homes on the market. A bunch of people show up. You're getting half of those people that show up are writing offers in this particular market.
Total frenzy.
Yeah, it's a total frenzy at this time. So.
All right, so we already kind of touched on this next one. Past top sale, 950. Awesome. Just out of curiosity, Style of home, what is typically selling at the highest? You've got typically what? Capes, colonials, ramblers, some splits. What's sort of top of the market in terms of demanding the most for the value here?
Yeah. So typically your colonials are going to get the most, and certainly a renovated colonial is gonna actually do really, really well and probably perform the best.
And are there
There
any streets that perform particularly
Yeah,
well?
so I want to just highlight sort of how this works in here. Okay, I've done extensive analysis here. So let's just dive in real quick. So this is University Boulevard here. If you can see my cursor here,
Right.
this is the Beltway here. So the Beltway borders one side. So I used to live right down in here. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you got the park, Northwest Branch Park, to the back. Okay, so that borders the entire community, which is really phenomenal. And all these homes on the back here, on these streets, sell for more money typically on average. Okay,
They're back in a park.
they're back into the park, and you can hike back there, walk dogs, whatever. We used to hike back there all the time. And you got Colesville Road here, so not too far from here is the ICC. So if you just go north, probably 2 miles or so, you're at the ICC. So basically though, Pat, so just diving in, looking at values, if I was to break this up, and I have done extensive analysis on this neighborhood, if I was to break this up into like sections of 3, okay, so this section over here, sort of from
Or
Williamsburg
south
over,
side of of town.
yeah, over here and over here especially, these values are, especially here where I used to live. So from
Mhm.
Whitestone sort of over here, this is the easiest way to get into the neighborhood typically. Okay, so from a pricing standpoint, this is accessible to more people. It's where I got into the neighborhood as well. The premium sort of location in here is sort of from Williamsburg over, probably to Lorraine, right? So this whole section in here, especially I
Your
keep
middle
circling
section.
the park here. So there's a park right in the middle of the neighborhood, which is actually being totally redone right now, and they're doing a tremendous job on it. I drove by it yesterday. But this section of the neighborhood, on average, sells for more money than this section, and for more money than this section over here. So there really is a premium, and a bunch of years back, it was a very significant premium to pay to be in here, almost like 5%,
Wow.
to pay to buy here versus over here. And I really do think that, as you look at neighborhoods, and this is what we do with people, right? When people want to buy a home, like, we have to understand what the market is doing. So people might say, well, I want to buy a home on X subdivision. Okay, whatever the X subdivision is, the first thing we got to do is we got to look at the neighborhood. We got to really understand what's happening inside of the neighborhood. I'll give you an example. So there's a neighborhood not too far from where I live now, and it's the same subdivision name, right? But on one side of the street, it backs up to the Air Park, Montgomery County.
Mhm.
Okay, it's the same subdivision, but you go across Air Park to the other side, it doesn't back to the airport. It backs to all kinds of amazing, wilderness, right? And so those values are substantially higher than the values that are on the other side of of Air Park, which is kind of amazing if you think about it, because it's the same subdivision, it's the same houses,
Same school district.
everything's the same,
Yeah.
but when you back to an airport, it's not the same.
Well, and we
Right?
see this with builders, right? If you're back into woods, you're back into the park. You've got you've got something that will never be built on
Mm-hmm.
behind you or adjacent to you. That's a lot premium. You're paying for that. So the
Yeah.
people who bought in here when the builder was in here, were paying lot premiums to be closer to the middle, just because of the design, to back up to Northwest Branch Park, to be at the end of a cul-de-sac, and to be on no through streets. So
Yeah.
that's always going to demand more. I suppose not a surprise, but the analysis still, many years later, these are built 48 to the mid 50s.
Yeah.
And that those values still hold. So bravo, Woodmoor. So let's talk about the number of sales to expect per quarter, and because this really ties into sort of your market pace. So we know, Joe, five houses a month, about 15 houses per quarter, and that's what we're seeing. So it's very consistent.
Yeah, year
The
over year, that is exactly what happens in this market.
And then the rate of absorption. So what I'm hearing is 5 come on and 5 go off.
Mm-hmm.
That's so the market is absorbing 5 homes every 30 days.
Yeah,
Is that right?
and even less than that. So you've got an average days on market of only 19, right? Which, by the way, is down year over year. That number is down from 45 days to 19 days.
It's tremendous.
I mean,
Since
look,
last year. So last year was at 45 this time of year. That's amazing.
yeah.
Wow.
So pretty astounding, actually, as you unpack that. And like I said, there are 6 or 7 fewer homes that have sold this year,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to last year when comparing the two. And that so everything just kind of shrunk, right? And days on market go down because people are showing up. Right?
And that price equilibrium, supply and demand, is pushing up. That price equilibrium over 700,000 in a pretty amazing way. I mean, 16 out of the 20 that have sold in the last 10 years in the 700 range just in the last year. Okay, so let's talk who has the upper hand. I mean, it should be clear at this point, sellers definitely have the upper hand right now. Average days on market, 19. That's way down from last year. So if you're buying in here, I mean, what a gem to be able to get into the neighborhood right now. And by the way, it's going to be stable. So hold on to it long term, and you're going to see some great returns. And we're seeing huge returns just year over year as well.
Yeah.
List to sales price ratio, 99%. So talk to us about what that looks like. I mean, for somebody who's never heard that term before.
Yeah, so the list to sales price ratio really is just, okay, I'm going to list my home at X amount of dollars, and where does it ultimately sell? And the list to sales price ratio right now this year is 99% of the list price. So where does it sell? Sells at 99% of where it lists. Now, some of them go on and they don't sell right away, and they're on the market for a little while, and it sells for a little bit less. Others go on the market and they're really priced well, and you get 10 offers and the thing gets bid up. And so, that equals out over the course of any market, obviously. But the main thing that I will say is that, again, if you're looking to buy a home in this neighborhood, then you've got to have all your stuff together, because you have to assume that it's going to be priced well, and you have to assume that there's going to be competition. And it's a competitive market, but you got to be ready for it, right? And if you're just thinking like, oh, I'm just going to go take a look, but if you find something you like, and we talk about this with people all the time, Pat, if you're going to go out and look, you're going to find something that you like. And so you got to have the keys to the car. The keys to the car are get with your lender, really understand your financials really, really well. Obviously all the other things that go along with buying a property, right? Like, is this the right time for me personally to move my family into X neighborhood? Once you've figured all that out, make sure you get all your finances in order so you can figure out if you can actually buy the property. So
awesome. So now we have the luxury of you having lived here. Let's talk really quick amenities. What are the things that you loved about this neighborhood in terms of just access to opportunities? We talked about the park. We talked about the creek and the trails and that sort of stuff. Maybe some shout outs to some of the businesses there.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone would know that my favorite place is the Woodmoor Bakery. I spent lots of money.
Mine is Santucci's.
And Santucci's is legit in there as well. So obviously, you got a Starbucks right there as well. I'll throw a shout out to Fetch Pet Care. So they do. Fetch is my sister-in-law's business. It's a dog walking company. And they do really a tremendous business over there as well, and all throughout Tacoma Park. But man, that is really that shopping center right there that sort of anchors the neighborhood, really, right on the corner of University Boulevard and 29. You also have Sweet Frog frozen yogurt. So look, in the morning, you go ahead and grab yourself some donuts or some cronuts, and then in the evening after dinner, you go spend lots of money at the frozen yogurt joint.
I can see a herd of Kirks walking out of there with some froyo.
I never forget the first time it opened up, and you know, I brought like my whole family. I was like, oh, let's go get ice cream. You know, let me just give you a quick tip. They weigh the product, and then you pay based on the weight. So bring your credit card with you when you go do that.
Yep. You get the Amex points. Go
Yeah.
take a trip. Awesome, man. Well, this has been fun. Well, hopefully you've all enjoyed the new iteration of our show. That's it for today. If there's a neighborhood that you would like us to uncover on the show, let us know in the comments below or shoot us an email at info@kilnergroup.com. And if you'd like us to apply our data very specifically to your home and see how you might perform in the market, you can always reach out to us at kilnergroup.com. John, thanks, man. This has been a blast. Adios.
See ya.